Hello everybody and thanks for being on Reefer. In today's video we are going to go over how to do a water change and how I do my water changes in my little 7-gallon tank here. So the first step of doing a water change is going to be gathering your materials. The first thing we're going to need is we're going to need some buckets. I've got these two buckets here. They're each 1 gallon. Like I said, my tank is only 7-gallon. So you could do 1 gallon water changes. I would recommend from anywhere from a 5 to 10-gallon tank. You want to get about 10% of that water change. So find a bucket that really fits the size of water that you're going to need for your tank. The second thing we're going to need is going to be water. We're going to need some fresh water. So there's plenty of great places to get fresh water. Your fish store usually has RO water. The grocery store has RO water, which is where I get mine from. It may not be the best, but it is 1,000 times better than tap water. And then, of course, you could get your own RODI unit, but for tanks this small, usually like something like the store or the fish store is going to be the way to go. The next thing on our list that we're going to need is going to be, of course, salt. So I use Red Sea Coral Pro salt. I really like this salt because it mixes fast. I can usually mix 1 gallon within half an hour. I also like this because it does have elevated levels. Choose a salt that works for you and stick with it. You can change salts in the middle of your tank. It's not really recommended. Parameters will swing, especially with a medicated salt like this. But yeah, anyways, I use the Coral Pro salt from Red Sea just because, like I said, it mixes fast. It's a little bit more on the expensive side, but it mixes fast and it's a good salt. I've had good results with it. I don't have any plans of changing anytime soon. The next item that we're going to need on our list is going to be a pump and a heater. So I just use this old power head, this old JBJ power head. I think it's about 500 GPH, somewhere in that area. And then you could also use an old return pump too. Then I also use this little aqua neon heater. It's a little 50-watt guy. I got a Petco. I think it was like $10 or something like that. So yeah, so you want to get yourself a nice little pump to mix the water and a good little heater to keep it warm while you're going. If you don't have the funds to afford one of them, definitely go with a pump over the heater. You can mix salt water with a pump. You can't mix salt water with just a heater. So if you are on a little bit of a budget, make sure you go with the pump over the heater. Third thing we're going to need, and this is absolutely crucial, this is going to be your refractometer. This is how you're going to measure the salinity in your tank. There's a couple different options you could choose from. As far as refractometers go, ATC I think makes a majority of the ones you see on the market. Really good, trusted across everyone in the hobby. Hana Checker also makes a really awesome salinity checker with a digital display that I really like. And then, of course, once you get into your bigger systems like Neptune and stuff, they're all going to have salinity in them as well. The last thing we're going to need for our water change is going to be a hose and a siphon, or a siphon hose. You could find these pretty much at any pet store or any local fish store, Amazon, anywhere. They're relatively inexpensive. I think I paid $10 for this guy. It's got a little sand nozzle on the end of it. Gonna come in real handy. Alright, so now that we've got all our supplies picked out and ready to roll, next thing we're going to do is we're going to start getting into the water change. So the first thing I like to do when I'm doing a water change is I like to get my salt ready. For the Coral Pro Red Sea salt, it's half a cup for every gallon is going to get you to that 1.025 salinity, which is where I like to run my tanks. Some people run them a little higher, some people run them a little lower. It all just kind of boils down to what your elements are reading out in your test. I would say if you're just starting out though, I think a good place to be is going to be that 1.025 because that way you have a little room on either end of the spectrum if you're too high or too low, or it's not going to affect anything too bad. So first thing we want to do is we want to get our salt going. You want to mix whatever salt you're using. You want to mix it really good before you go ahead and put it in the water. Make sure you go through that thing, get all the deposits mixed up, no hard spots, nice fine smooth sand is what you're looking for. Alright, so the next step is going to be to go ahead and put our pump and our heater into the water. So you just want to go ahead and get them in there, get them kind of out of the way. That is one issue you will have with the smaller buckets. It is harder to kind of get a pump and a heater in there, but just as long as they're out of the way and they're not making too much noise, rattling each other, you're going to be okay. Alright, and then once we get our pump and heater added into the water, that's when we could start putting in our salt. Now it's very important that we put in our salt into our water. We don't want to do it the other way around where we put the water in after the salt. The water is always first, and we always add salt to water, never water to salt. So now that your salt water has been mixing for a while now, about 15-20 minutes or so, the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your refractometer is calibrated. Each one will come with its own instructions on how to calibrate your refractometer. But then you want to go ahead and test your salinity. So, I can't stress enough how important it is to test your water before you put it in your tank. I test my salinity probably two times before it goes into my tank, and over my whole process of mixing water to get that right level, I probably go through about 5 to 6 different times of testing just to make sure that water is perfect, because if that water isn't perfect, that's when you start running into problems. So once your salinity is good, that's when you can start taking water out of the tank. Okay, so you're just going to put your siphon in there, and then go ahead and do little small circles around the sand bed. That's going to help get any kind of detritus or old food or anything that's on the floor that you may not want there up. Going to keep your sand bed nice and clean. Okay, so once it's all the way empty, you can go ahead and just start dumping in your new salt water. And that's why I like these jugs. As you can see up here, these jugs have a nice little nozzle on them, so it is really easy to put water back into the tank. You're not going to have to fumble with having an extra return pump or anything like that. This one you can just kind of just let it go in. It's a nice pace. So that's it for how to do a water change. Thanks again for being on Reefer, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe, then go follow me on Instagram @OnReefer. Thank you.